Hey, Todd McLeod, it's on Monday, October the 18th, Jacksonville Baptist Church. Yesterday at Jacksonville Baptist, we're talking about these real life stories of faith. And one of the perhaps most familiar to a lot of people is the account of Noah building the ark. Uh, and these images of an ark and animals, going on at two by two. Take some time today to read Genesis chapter 6. Now the rest of Noah's account goes on in chapter 7 and 8, talks about the actual process of the animals and the rain starting and the flooding and all the rest of it. But chapter 6 kind of covers the first part of that account. So in Hebrews 7, chapter 11, verse 7, it says that being warned by God of things not yet seen. In other words, Noah had no evidence that there ever was going to be a flood, that even a single drop of water would fall from the sky. But he was called by God to walk by faith. And to walk by faith is to be sure and certain. And we like that. We like being sure and certain. But the thing about faith is to be sure and certain even when we cannot see the evidence. And so we are left to believe that God knows what he's doing, that God knows what the evidence is, that God is going to accomplish what he says he's going to accomplish, and that he cares for us. And so even though we can't see the evidence. And so Noah does this, and that's why I want you to read Genesis chapter 6. It talks about how he was called by God to do this, to build this ark. And then it goes into great detail about the specifications for the ark, which I do believe is given to us there in Genesis 6 to show us the extent in detail to which Noah obeyed God. Because it says down at the end of chapter 6, I believe it's verse 22, that Noah did everything that God commanded him to do. So that's why it's able to say in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7, that Noah was an heir or a possessor of righteousness. And for us today, righteousness begins with the grace of God that's found in the work of Christ, that we are righteous in the eyes of God because Christ is within us. But then we are called to live in such a way as to let that righteousness shine through us. And that righteousness that shines through us comes from a love for God and an obedience for God. Again, Genesis 6:22, Noah did everything. He obeyed everything that God commanded him to do. So as you think about that, and as you read Genesis 6 sometime today, I want you to think about those unseen things. The fact that Noah was called to build this ark, even though the evidence for needing the ark was yet unseen. And there's situations, circumstances in your life and in mine where there's still an awful lot of evidence that's not there. It's not there yet. You can't see it. Think about that. Think about those things and how you are called to live by faith, to be sure and certain even when you can't see the evidence, because you can be sure and certain in a God who calls you to walk by faith, who enables you as you allow him to walk by faith, gives you that power that you need, and who always comes through with his promises. And to know that this God that we trust loves us very much. I also suggested yesterday in our discussion time in the offline portion of the service that you pray perhaps for at least one broken person, just the circumstances of life, somebody hurting, someone far from God, perhaps pray for them. Pray for God to help you walk by faith. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.